So if you walk me through your life prior to diagnosis and since having your ostomy.
Okay. Well, I'll just go straight to when with the ostomy, because I got my ileostomy when I was 17. And I didn't really have my condition, or I may have had my condition before that. However, I was only diagnosed a couple of months before my surgery. So if we talk about how I got to that point, I was just a young man who had the usual symptoms of losing weight very quickly, no appetite, blood when you went to the bathroom, some mucus to gross people out. And because I was a young man, I wouldn't talk to anyone about it. I mentioned it to a few people. I wouldn't go to the doctor. My mum made me go. The doctor told me I had a hemorrhoid, and that was the cause of the blood. Makes sense because the bowel would have been inflamed, which would have inflamed the glands, blah, blah, blah. But it was a misdiagnosis. I believe, I ended up in A&E. After being in A&E, I missed a college trip to Rome because I was in there for 12 days while they ran a load of tests. I was in agony with my stomach. They gave me like morphine and stuff. First time I had it, great stuff. And then I was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis after a few scans and endoscopy. They pumped me full of prednisolone steroids, and I was on my way. I lost a lot of weight, but I started going back to the gym straight away because I needed to get back to where I was physically for college, because I did PE in college. But a month later, I was getting my symptoms back as I started coming off the prednisolone, as you're supposed to. I basically started getting all the symptoms back, and I remember passing out on the landing waiting for the bathroom because my mum was in the bathroom.
Wow.
So, and then I ended up back in A&E, and long story short,
were you at that point?
Probably. That was a lot of a steady slope to my decline. I ended up in hospital. They gave me more steroids. It didn't work. And I just spent a month, without being over dramatic, just dying because I was just losing weight. All I would do is every couple of hours, I was nil by mouth, so I had no food. I would get up, hold on to my little thing, waddle to the toilet, bleed, be in serious pain, waddle back, and then sit in a bed.
I was you on any IVs that you know of?
Oh, they put me on like IV steroids. This was a month of trial and error of lots of different treatments. And what happened was it was a bank holiday weekend, and it was I was going to say long story short, but why not get into it while it's fresh in my mind. But it was a bank holiday weekend, and on the Thursday, the doctor who I had told me, right, this treatment that you're having now is the final type of steroid that we want to use. If this doesn't work, we will go to toxin. I couldn't remember the name of it, some toxins, but the last possible thing would be surgery, because we don't want surgery. And I was like, okay, you're the doctor. And then the next day, the Friday, the Friday, my mum came in and my dad, and I was really not responsive. My skin was kind of greenish. And basically my mum panicked because I was, usually most days I could talk and I could get up, at least sit up. And that day I couldn't. And she was like, get my son some bloods, get them this. And I had to be rushed in for emergency surgery.
Well, you started getting septicemia, had you? Or?
Yeah, no. What had happened is my white blood cell count had gone ridiculously high. And there was only one anaesthetist team in the hospital because of the bank holiday. And I also ended up with a surgeon who was a small bowel specialist, not a large bowel, called Dr. Benamida. He performed my surgery. It was an emergency. So I ended up with just the scar, like a big scar going straight down. Because they didn't know what they were getting themselves into. They thought that I would end up with one stoma, maybe two, to reconnect. But what they found is the entire colon was inflamed, and they got rid of the entire thing. So I had the surgery and I had an epidural, and the pain relief from before and after surgery was incredible. Like I literally went from I was going to die if my mum had not come in and noticed and I'd have been left alone, I might not be here. To a couple of hours later, I was like, the next early morning I was back to being fine. But that surgery actually had complications and went wrong. They had put the sutures too tight around the stoma.
Oh.
So when food got to it, it would reverse and come back, but liquid could go through. So they thought there was a twist in the bowel, and they basically put me for another month in hospital, where they were like, no, it's a twist, or it's a blockage, or it's this. And I was going through loads of tests to avoid surgery. But again, I couldn't eat. I can't
have that IG thing down your nose.
I've had a few. I've had a few, because they would think that I was getting better and take it out, and I pulled one out myself because it was easier than the nurse doing it.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then they were like, we've got to open you up and find out what's going on. And then they found out that that's what it was. And then about 4 days later, I went home. It was a lot. It was 3 months in hospital for a 17-year-old.
That's a long time.
Yeah. I still know some of the nurses at the hospital, because
you still live in the same area?
I do, yeah, I do. I live in the same area, unfortunately. So if I end up at that hospital again, but that's my pre and then post ostomy kind of period as a young man. That's how I stumbled into having an ileostomy.
What was you like for you as a 17-year-old facing that?
I was very grateful, because I knew how close to not being here I was, and my parents made me remember that. My mum, because a part of me after I left was a bit angry because they had made the mistake. And obviously, if I had the inclination, I probably could have sued or something. But my mum always said, like, they did save your life at the end of the day. Like, yeah, you could, but. And I was like, well, yeah, that's true. And I wouldn't want to be ungrateful to the NHS, because they did save my life.